Hey everyone, we had seen a lot around on the whole product development process. We had seen, what an agile is, what a lean management system is, and then I was telling you I'm going to get you through a little bit into the framework. And in this video, we're going to look at the framework called Scrum, which is one of the agile works in a couple of frameworks. One is called Scrum, the other one is called Kanban. Those are the most sort of sought out frameworks in terms of how an agile methodology is executed. That's exactly what we're going to see in this video. We're going to look at what a Scrum model is. When it comes to Scrum, putting it simple, a Scrum is where, as I told in Agile, we look at the overall product and we look at what are the major features or major priorities in terms of features that has to be a part of the product and start developing them simultaneously at the same time so we could hit the market faster. And Scrum is the framework on executing this plan. In a Scrum, how it works is generally we all follow a ticketing solution. A lot of people go with Jira or a Trello. Those are around the most common tools that is used in terms of executing an agile framework. Let's say Trello or Jira for that matter. Where we start is we start building out something called a product backlog. A product backlog is where you sort of just list out every activity that are focused towards the product development and what are the different features that has to be developed. You note down all the activities in the backlog, and then you move on to a process called process, more like what the image shows on the top, where you put it down saying to do items and then in process and then done. So the whole philosophy behind a Scrum methodology is you look at a time bound. It could be 2 weeks. Some companies follow it for 2 weeks, some follow it for 4, some follow it for 6. Some even go with the quarterly plan called a PI plan. So it depends on the type of company, or it depends on the framework that works for a specific company. So let's for the sake of it, let's say we are following a 4-week sort of sprint model here. What would happen is you look at 4 weeks as your time parameter and then push a list of items from the backlog into the process or into to-do items and then get them groomed. When you say groomed, that is when a product team, a tech team or a design team or an analyst team or analytics team just goes through the specific ticket and decides, saying, this is possible, this is feasible, this is not possible, this is not feasible. So they sort of just come up with an agreement within themselves to be able to promise them, saying within this time band I'm going to execute this specific task for you. Once it gets groomed, then you push them on to process, into the in-process items. Once it gets to the in-process item, the goal is to be able to get it completed by the end of the sprint, in this case which is 4 weeks. But what would happen at times is a certain task that is committed at the starting of the sprint may not be completed at the end of the sprint, which means they're still in process and they're not completed. What would happen in that case is those tickets will go back to the backlogs and then pushed onto the subsequent sprint models, sprint time bands. So that is what you call deferred ticket items. And then simultaneously, this sort of helps you to understand the velocity of a specific team. We will be able to calculate saying my specific engineering team is capable of delivering so much of tickets within this 4-week time band. My specific data science team is able to give you so much of tickets within this this time band. So that is exactly how we understand the velocity of the team's execution power. So that is the reason why a lot of companies adopt this model. So there is there is a method behind the whole madness in terms of achieving a specific product. And in terms of how you do it, the whole process is concerned, you call something called a daily stand-up meeting. Like they say, you stand up and take the call. So a daily or a weekly stand up where they discuss about, is there any blockers? Is there are things that can be done faster? Is there a thing that is not getting tracked? Or is there are things that are getting overlooked? Those sort of things gets clarified on the daily stand up calls where daily people share what they are doing. So there is a certain sort of method behind the madness on how the whole 4 weeks sort of works. And then you also call something called at the end of the sprint, you also call the conclusion call, retrospective call. People call it differently. Say, let's say retrospective is one of the most common word used. That in that call, people speak about what worked during the sprint, what didn't work during the sprint, what can be done better, what should have been should not have overlooked, what was overlooked. So those sort of discussion happens during the retrospective call, and then the next subsequent sprint they try to fix it. So this is exactly how a Scrum model works. Let's look into what a Kanban would look like in the next call. Sorry, I was speaking about it and then I started speaking about a card. We will look into it in the next video. But just to summarize a little bit on the Scrum model, like I said, Scrum model is the framework of executing an agile model with a time band. In the time band, it is completely variable on the type of company they work for, and the velocity will also vary based on the size of the company people work for. Like I said, this is specifically meant for executing an agile model for softwares, and the Kanban is slightly different. We will go through them in the next call. Have a great day. Bye bye.